Finally making some headway on this car. With the VHR swap. Have the powder coated Hexagarage mounts. Hexagarage did the harness as well, so it's a factory modified harness. Has OBD2 port and everything. And pretty much got the motor prepped and ready to go. Really just need to put the clutch and flywheel on and make the transmission to it, but just got to do a little bit more setting up the transmission for the external slave and everything like that. They got to swap the front plate on it, but essentially fully maintained the motor, new water pump, thermostat, timing stuff, gallery gaskets were done, so the motor should be ready to go. Got it looking pretty good overall, so got the rest of the stuff over here to install. Just intake. Got to work on the throttle pedal as well. Got to get that installed in the car since it'll now be drive-by-wire. And started working on the shifter here. Got the shifter a little set up. Not fully bolted on permanently, but just snugged in place, making sure it all works. And then I forgot to put this guy back on, so I gotta take it back off anyway. But next step is to swap that factory external or internal slave for the Z1 external kit. So we'll show that shortly as well, just getting that set up and everything on the transmission. But yep, making progress. On the VHR car, she's a mess right now, but it's getting there. All right, here we have the Z1 clutch kit, and we're doing the Z1 CSC elimination kit. So we're measuring, this is the part where, you know, they say in the instructions that's extremely important, page, I believe number 7, you don't want to miss this. So we're measuring, we bolted the clutch kit all together. We have it torqued just like it would be on the car. And I have a rubber block that's flat on the back side that's gonna go all the way down the back of the flywheel. So we're gonna measure the stack height using like a caliper of some sort. And what we measured was, we went all the way down to where it hit, and then using, and you don't have to use this here, you can use anything you want that's flat, but using a flat edge to measure where that point where the fingers are touching, which for me ended up being about, like, when it was flush with the bottom of that flat edge, was about 84.4. So I took the measurements a few times just to be safe, and with the formula that Z1 here provides, it was what I have here, Z1 HR kit, the Z1 flywheel stack height is what it manufactured, it should be manufactured to, and then we have this is what they recommend, 7. Doing my calculation with the 84.4, subtracting out the thickness of the flat edge that I used, I ended up getting that, putting in the formula, and then you end up getting, I was getting about 6, so between 6 and 7 millimeter. I called Z1, you know, just to maybe save anybody a phone call, but essentially what you're doing here is, this is for the throw on the slave cylinder, because what you don't want to do is overextend the slave cylinder, because then you'll rupture it. So it doesn't really have to do with the clutch function. The clutch is going to function perfectly, and even if you, for example, put 3 and you needed 7, it's still going to work, but you're just going to risk hurting the life of your slave cylinder. So that's what Z1 said. So I was within a millimeter of what they say. So they said I could either go with 6 or 7, and realistically 1 millimeter difference is not going to cause an issue with this. All right, so we have here the new Z1 front cover. We know how many millimeters of shim that we're going to use. So we have the old front cover taken off. We've got it cleaned. The key part here is just making sure you have the sealing bolts separate from the regular bolts, and per the instructions from Z1, you just want to use a thread sealer. So I'm using, I'll put it over here so you can see what it is if you need. The part number might be hard to see. It is 59214. It's just Permatex thread sealant from the auto parts store. We're going to put a little bit of that on each bolt as we put it back together, and then we will torque it all to spec, put the throw-up bearing and all that stuff on there. We just tightened up the torqued and everything with the GK Tech shifter, so we have that all set up and ready to go. So, all right, here we have the front cover torque to spec. The instructions from Z1 that they provide gives you the torque sequence. It's pretty much just across the board star pattern like you normally would. We got that torqued, thread sealant on the bottom 4 sealing bolts. We have the 6 millimeters worth of shim based off our calculation. I decided to go with 6 instead of 7 because that was a true measurement. I figured that will probably be best. We got some red Loctite on there. That's torqued to spec. 24 foot-pounds. Each bolt here is only 13 for the cover bolts. And then now working on the pivot fork. So there's a little clip that Z1 provides. You want to slide that in there. You can use a pair of pliers just to pop it in there so that it stays in there. That'll hold on to the pivot ball from there. We have to grease up any of the pivot points. They give you a little bit of exotic grease. All right, so we have the throw bearing pressed onto the throw bearing sleeve. Usually I just put a little bit of grease, use some rubber blocks and a rubber mallet, and just tap it in until it's fully flush. We have the clip here just for reference if you want to get a look at that. The hoops go on top. You know, the clip snaps on, and then you snap these onto there. We have the pivot ball point greased up, and some grease on all the pivot areas. So as we install this, it should go right on. And then once you get it in place, you should hear a snap. And once it's in place, after you hear that snap, there should be no play. That means that the clip on the inside is installed properly, and then you can actuate your pivot ball, and then you can just, if you have any excess grease, just go ahead and wipe it off. All right, now we have the slave bolted on. The bracket didn't go on the easiest, had to make some adjustments because you have to have 8 washers total, 1 on each side, but we were able to get it to go in with a little bit of massaging. So we have the slave bolted on. This is the orientation. We put 1 washer up top, 2 in the back, and then going up to this. I'm just gonna leave it all loose until it's on the car, but this has a washer for the spring. I put the big washer first, the little one, and then the lock nut. And then there's another spring that'll go on to that'll bolt to the block, the bell housing, and that's what'll attach the spring to there to have that extra pullback. Then we should be good to go. Got the dust shield on.